latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do every weekday over the airwaves of ESPN Radio, 250-plus markets across the United States of America, plus ESPN Radio on Sirius XM Channel 80, plus ESPN Radio simulcast over the live national television airwaves of ESPN News. Number to call up, as always, is 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Got a lot of stuff to get into today. I got a bit distracted because I was looking for something to read, and I don't have it in front of me, so my apologies. But nevertheless, I got a lot of stuff to get into today. Got a lot of stuff on my mind, right? It's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. You know, I'll get into some football matters involving Antonio Brown in a little bit. I'll get into some basketball matters involving LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers in just a minute or a few minutes from now. But the news of the moment is that Manny Machado, third baseman, shortstop, formerly of the Los Angeles Dodgers, prior to that, Baltimore Orioles, has signed a $300 million deal. That is what we have learned. Manny Machado is signing a $300 million deal, which is a record deal, 10 years, $300 million, with the San Diego Padres. Now, a lot of you are looking at that, and they're like, hey, Manny can ball. Manny can absolutely ball. Lifetime career batting average of .282. 175 home runs in his career. 513 RBIs in his career. Last year, 37 home runs, batted .297. In his time with the Dodgers, he batted .273, batted .315 with the Orioles, batted .273 with 13 homers, 42 RBIs in 66 games with a Los Angeles Dodgers squad that ended up going to the World Series where they would lose yet again. Still haven't won a World Series championship since 1988. Playing for an organization with deep pockets, with arguably the greatest pitcher of the modern day era in Clayton Kershaw, with a bunch of supplementary parts around them, where if Manny Machado was all of that, they might be the champions. Now I want to emphasize that what I'm about to say is not a knock on Manny Machado. It's nothing personal. But I don't give a damn who it is. Ain't nobody worth 10 years in Major League Baseball. That's my personal belief. You can give me all the numbers. You can give me all the ratings metrics you want. I don't give a damn about all that. All the analytics. I don't care. You want to tell me the 8 players before him that signed 10-year, $100+ million deals, you go right ahead. Throw Derek Jeter into the mix. Throw Alex Rodriguez's first $100+ million contract when he signed for 10 years at $275 million with the Texas Rangers. Feel free to do that. Tell me that worked. Tell me Troy Tulowitzki worked. I got it. I got it. But the fact of the matter is, giving Manny Machado $300 million, where you going, San Diego Padres? Where you think you going? You ain't been in the postseason in about 7 years. You haven't had a winning record in 7 years. You haven't had a winning record in 7 years. Let's talk about these Padres for a second. Let's talk about them. The San Diego Padres have not had a winning record since winning 90 games in 2010. Since that time, they have never won more than 77 games in a season. They haven't been to the postseason since 2006. They haven't been to the World Series since 1998 when they got swept by the Yankees. And never in the history of this franchise, dating back to 1969, have the San Diego Padres won a World Series title. Now, I don't know about anybody else. But if I got those kind of things going on, I'm not giving you one player 10 years, $300 million. I'm just not doing it. Why? For what? Manny Machado, who can ball without question. This is the brother that basically has the attitude, I'll work when I want to work. I'll run the bases when I want to run the bases. I'll show effort when I want to show effort. That's who you give 10 years to? 10 years? I'm not feeling that. I'm so happy that the Yankees didn't do that. And by the way, don't do it for Bryce Harper either. And Bryce Harper is a stud. I love Bryce Harper. And I am in no way saying I have a problem with the money. I don't give a damn if it's $400 million or $500 million. What I have a problem with, ladies and gentlemen, is the years. I have a problem with you selling me, trying to sell me on somebody being productive 10 years from now. How the hell do you know? In my world, personally speaking, I don't think any of these guys should get more than 6 years. There should be no deals more than 6 years. I like what the NBA has done. I don't like what they've done in terms of restricting salaries. Like, I don't believe that LeBron James is worth $153 million. I think the Lakers should have been able to pay him more than that. LeBron James, simply due to ratings and who he brings through the turnstiles, city to city, across this nation, LeBron James is worth $300 million. Easy. In salary. Easy. So I don't like the fact that he's restricted to the $153 million. But I like the fact that all you could give him was 4 years. I like the fact that for his own team to retain him, all they could give him is 5 years. I like that. Because it's just when we're talking about professional sports and you're talking about the physicality of an athlete, how the hell can you project what they're going to be 10 years down the road physically? That's insane. And especially in a sport like baseball, where you can smack homers out the ballpark. Or you can have an ERA under 2. And be a strikeout king, pitching once every 5 days. The fact of the matter is that it's virtually impossible to project how good somebody's going to be and whether or not they'll earn that money down the line. I'm not giving out no 10-year deal. Manny Machado, is he box office? Are you really going to sell tickets in San Diego? Are people going to clamor to the ballpark, salivating out their mouth to watch Manny Machado? I know he can ball. I'm not questioning that. But are they really going to go out of their way? Is he that dude? Ladies and gentlemen, do y'all understand that in the history of sports, there are very, very few people who do that? Oh, by the way, Bryce Harper is more box office than Manny Machado. Now, you might not need him if you're the Yankees. You might need him if you're the Phillies. You might need him then. You might need him if you're San Francisco. You might need him then, now that Bonds is gone. I mean, I don't know the answer to that question. But when it comes to who I trust and who I'm willing to invest a decade in, I trust Bryce Harper more than I trust Manny Machado. They're both 26 years of age. But I trust Bryce Harper more because I think that Bryce Harper wants it. I think that when he had a down year last year, it could be wanting too much. It could be going all out. It could be being distracted because you care so much, as opposed to somebody that's laissez-faire, acting all nonchalant like they don't give a damn. Particularly come postseason time. I got a problem with that. I don't know about anybody else, but that's me. I don't get this. I don't understand it. And if you're the New York Yankees, don't you dare. Don't you dare. I don't give a damn about what Aaron Judge said. He'll move to anywhere they want to, anything it takes to get Bryce Harper. Wait a minute. Just wait a damn second here. You're the New York Yankees. You got to the postseason without these dudes. And quite frankly, I'm sick and tired of you investing in bats and not investing enough in pitching. I know you just signed Severino to an extension. That's not where I'm going. How about going out there and getting a couple of aces? How about making sure in Yankee pinstripes we get a version of Smoltz and Glavine and Maddox together? Back in the day with the Braves. How about bringing that to Yankee Stadium? How about bringing that to the Bronx? How about the exorbitant prices that you charge and people getting stuck in traffic on the FDR or the Cross Bronx? How about making sure that if they got to go through all of that and then pay $50 for a pretzel and pop, that you make sure you ain't going home in the ALDS, that you haven't deferred to the greatness of the Boston Red Sox. You get Giancarlo Stanton, big name, South Beach, smacking home runs in South Beach and getting the whole water fountain. I don't know what the hell they were doing up there at the Marlins Park. But when that brother came to the Bronx, I'm sorry, I thought it was J.D. Martinez we were talking about in Boston. I thought that's the brother that was balling. I'm just saying, let's keep this all in perspective. I love Bryce Harper. I would love to see Bryce Harper here. It ain't a priority. If Judge is healthy and Sanchez is focused and Gregorius ultimately comes back and stop striking out half the damn time, and you can get any pitching outside of Severino, and you keep CC Sabathia on the Crunchberries, not off of it, on it. Keep him on the Crunchberries. CC Sabathia is like the male version of Oprah. They're better when they're thick. I don't want the weight going. Keep it on. He performs better. That's what I'm talking about. How about that? That's what I want to see. I am just diametrically opposed and emphatically against 10-year deals in professional sports. I don't think these guys deserve it. I'm not saying they don't deserve the money. I'm saying the years are what I have a problem with. You can project that Manny Machado is going to be 36 years of age when his contract comes to an end. I'm saying, wait a minute. Are you really going to flourish? Can I really trust you to do that over the next 10 years? How come I can't get 5 at a time? How I can't get 5 with an option for the next 5? How come that couldn't have been collectively bargained? I remember when Justin Verlander spoke recently, something wrong with the culture because these guys, spring training's here, and these guys haven't been signed yet. There's very, very few. I mean, Kate Upton loves him more than me, but I love me some Verlander. He's a stud. Make no mistake about it. But talk about a privileged comment. That's baseball privilege at its height. That entitlement just oozing out of mouths of people. 10 years? You gave Bryce Harper, you gave Manny Machado 5 years, $200 million. You give Bryce Harper 6 years, $250 million. I don't care. I got a problem with the years. There is nothing, in my opinion, that Manny Machado has shown you that says I can be trusted for a decade. Albert Pujols, consummate professional. Albert Pujols, big stud, future Hall of Famer, as classy as they come, never associated with steroids. I know he hasn't fallen off the map. I know he's still capable of producing. Is he the Albert Pujols he was years ago with the Angels? With the Cardinals? Stop. You know better. It's not true. 10 years? Alex Rodriguez, second go round with the Yankees. Come on now. Let's just bump the brakes just a little bit now. These 10-year deals, I'm glad y'all cool with it. I'm not. Now, I will tell you where there is an exception. When it pays for itself because you are box office. You are box office. That's when it's different. You want to give Barry Bonds back in the day an exorbitant deal like that? He was box office. Matter of fact, I don't know anybody else who was box office like that. I mean, to a lesser degree, the pitchers like the Randy Johnsons of the world and others, fine. But on a day in, day out basis, night in, night out basis, who's been box office in baseball? Mark McGwire was for 1 year. So was Sammy Sosa, because baseball is very, very good to him. Mr. Interpreter. I mean, you want to look at it that way, that's fine. But to me, the only exception is if you're box office. I don't want to hear about your productivity. I don't want to hear it. Every time I look at the stage, I always wonder when I'm watching SportsCenter and I see these baseball games and damn near 3/4 of the stadiums are empty for the first 5 months of the year. I'm like, damn. How they making this money? TV deals, 81 home games, paraphernalia, all of this other stuff, digital, we get it. Sponsorships, naming rights, all I got it. But to me, the only exception is if you are box office. Mike Trout is box office. Bryce Harper is box office. And I'm still not sold on him getting 10 years. But if your box office and the money is offset by the fannies you put into the stadium and other things that facilitate or generate more revenue, I'm down with it. I don't see Manny Machado that way. Am I wrong? Am I lost? I don't recall anybody going like this. When the Dodgers were making their run, I don't recall anybody saying, I got to go over to Chavez Ravine to watch Manny Machado. I don't recall. Am I wrong? I apologize. I apologize. I apologize. I don't recall that. I don't recall anybody saying, oh, my God, I got to get over to see Manny Machado. I can't wait. I don't recall that. I really don't. To a lesser degree, Giancarlo Stanton was box office. He's a Yankee. So if you're a Yankee and you relevant, that makes you somewhat box office. When they made their run and we went to the ALCS and lost in Game 7 to the Houston Astros, the way Girardi had those boys balling, those cardiac kids, and Aaron Judge playing lights out at home, not necessarily that much on the road, it mattered. I guess I'm just a little bit different. But I bring this subject up because it's really not about Manny Machado. It's really not about Bryce Harper. It's about the fact that I am diametrically opposed to 10-year deals for professional athletes. I don't like that. Because I don't believe that by and large you can sustain that level of success. There's going to be drop-off. There's going to be fall-off. And to me, the only exception should be if you are box office. LeBron James is box office. He pays for himself the way Kobe paid for himself, the way Shaq paid for himself, the way AI paid for himself, the way Jordan paid for himself, the way Barry Bonds paid for himself, Alex Rodriguez paid for himself. That's why I don't blame football for being the way that they are. Because guess what? The game sells itself, not a player. If Tom Brady is not quarterbacking for the New England Patriots. You trying to tell me people ain't coming to the stadium to watch football? Or people not going to watch football on TV? Of course they will. If they watch Jay Cutler, they'd watch the backup to Tom Brady. I'm here to tell you. If they watch Tannehill, they'd watch the backup to Big Ben Roethlisberger. I'm just giving you the truth. The NFL is the NFL. That's why they can afford to be the way that they are. These other sports are carried by star power individuals. But how many truly are there? And rather than answering the question for you, I'll give you an opportunity to answer it yourself. I challenge y'all right now, right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show, on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. Give me 10 guys, hell, 5, that are truly box office. We all deserve a certain amount of money because of our skills, what we bring to the table, and how it contributes somewhat to winning. But we all know that when you really deserve to get paid, it's because you generate revenue, not bleed from it. Who truly, truly generates revenue? Who's truly, truly box office? Answer the question. Give me 5 people. I double dare y'all. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. That's the question I'm throwing out there. I'll get into Antonio Brown a little bit. I'm going to get into LeBron James, what's going on in L.A. in a little bit, as well as Boston and then some. So stick around. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio and ESPN News. By the way, do you have frequent heartburn? Like the kind where you have an acid stashed everywhere in case it pops up? You know what I mean. You keep some in your bag or your desk or your car or your nightstand. You have those chalky tablets ready for whenever and wherever heartburn strikes. Well, listen up. There's an easier way to deal with your heartburn. That's Prilosec OTC. Just 1 pill a day will last a full 24 hours with 0 heartburn. Kick your antacid habit. It's possible with Prilosec OTC. Use as directed for 14 days to treat frequent heartburn. It's not for immediate relief. 888-SAY-ESPN. That is the number to call. You're listening live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News.
Learn what affects your credit scores and what you can do to improve them. The Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, and you can always get in touch with the show through the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed.
Stephen A. Smith Show is being brought to you by Credit Karma. Get your truly free credit scores and free credit monitoring from Credit Karma today. That's Credit Karma, K-A-R-M-A. Get knowing. One of the other things that I wanted to get into, just thinking about a lot of things here. I want to make sure that I'm very, very clear about what I'm saying. When I say box office, I'm not just talking to turnstiles. I'm talking about TV ratings too. I'm telling you right now, and I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm trying to challenge everybody right now. It'll be hard-pressed for folks to come up with 5 guys who are box office. Now, but Pujols, he didn't sign a 10-year deal. He signed an 8-year deal. But even then, in some people's eyes, that was a little bit too much. Because you wonder how people are going to be able to produce. It matters. It really, really matters. And we see these guys here, and people are how you go, what baseball player's box office other than Mike Trout and possibly Bryce Harper? Who's box office? I'm not saying they don't deserve to get paid. But personally speaking, I think the deal should be maxed out at 6 years. I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about years. I'm talking about years. And I don't understand how this is even an issue for people. I am totally opposed to 10-year deals. Totally. And I'm telling you right now, y'all will be hard-pressed. I'm not saying you don't have 5. I'm saying it ain't easy to come up with the 5. You got 450-plus players, okay, in the NBA. You got 1,800-plus players okay, in the NFL. You got 720 plus or 700 more players in Major League Baseball. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm asking you to come up with 5 people that are undeniably box office, turnstiles, ratings on television, etc. Give them to me. Because I'm telling you, they don't exist. Now, maybe they will exist in a local market. But that's teams that are fans and, fans are supporting their local team, stuff like that. I'm talking about transcendent, clearly box office kind of ball players in the world of professional sports. Do you know that when I ask my producers, these are pros, mind you, paid to know these kind of things, do you know they actually went the route of mentioning Zion Williamson? I said pro sports. I didn't say college. But they had to go the college route because it was hard-pressed to find a pro who was definitively box office. Right now, Zion Williamson is arguably a top 5 box office attraction in the world of sports. You realize how sad that is with the money that's being doled out to these professional athletes? Everybody talk about making money, and nobody talk about generating money. Because most of them ain't winning, and they're not revenue generators. They're just getting paid a salary for their talent, a very exorbitant one at that. But nobody brings that up. So let's have that conversation. Roger, you're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, man.
Hey, I got my top 5. I'm a diehard Yankee fan. My top 5 don't like 10-year contracts, just like you. But it would be Harper, Trout, Judge, Mookie, Altuve, and one future player.
Stop right there. Stop right there. Slow down. Give me the 5 again. Slow it down.
Bryce Harper.
Agreed.
Mookie Betts.
No. Great.
Jose,
not box
Jose.
office. I said box office. I didn't say great. I said box office. You are wrong. Keep going.
Altuve.
You're wrong. Keep going.
Judge.
Aaron Judge?
Yes, sir.
Potentially, because the Yankee brand, et cetera, helps buffer his own brand. Okay, possible. What else?
And the future one in Vladdy Guerrero Jr.
No. You don't turn on the TV or walk through the turnstiles to watch these people. You respect them. And I said in all of sports, you just gave me baseball. There's no list. There is no list that can't have LeBron on it and Tiger. They pay for themselves. Their box office. They pay for themselves. The ratings of television are down. LeBron's in the West Coast. He's out here in L.A. It's where I'm at this week. This is where LeBron is. So the ratings have dipped because he was on in the East, so he'd come on early in the evening. He's out west. It's been compromised. All the networks' ratings have suffered. Tiger Woods, when he ain't playing golf, it ain't the same. When he is playing, it matters. If your list doesn't have LeBron and Tiger on it, you don't know what the hell you talk about. Have a nice day. Josh, you're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Hey, Stephen A., how's it going, man?
I'm all right. Talk to me.
All right. So, just baseball here.
Hold on, first of all, I know you didn't just put me on speakerphone. I know you didn't just do that. I know you didn't just put me on speakerphone. You didn't call into a national television, a national radio show, and then put on speakerphone and your voice fade. Please tell me you didn't just do that.
Hey, I've got you live up to my face right now.
You better. Now speak up so my audience can hear you. Let's go.
All right. Hey, somebody that I got in mind for the future. Ronald Acuna Jr. from the Atlanta Braves.
Oh, my God. What is the matter with you people? Sure, the future, maybe. I asked you, you watch sports, Josh? You've been watching. How old are you, Josh? How old are you, Josh?
I'm 27 years old.
How long have you been watching sports, Josh?
How
many sports do you watch, Josh?
Plenty of sports.
All right, so I asked you to give me 5 5 box office athletes. 5.
All right, here we go.
Give it to me.
All right, we got Bryce Harper. We got LeBron James. We got Michael Phelps. I'm going to give you Michael Phelps.
Oh, stop it. Stop. All right. Okay. Let me take that back. Michael Phelps, when it comes to swimming and Olympic competition, yes, you will watch him. But come on. I mean, I got it. But let's throw him out of the equation. We only see him once every 4 years, and that was in the past because he's retired. Okay. All right. So we don't want to disrespect Michael Phelps. But come on. Give me somebody that plays more.
All right. I got Tiger on there.
Okay.
And then I'm going to get you a football guy. Give me Tom Brady, best of all time.
Okay. Tom Brady, Tiger, LeBron. You said Mike Trout, right?
Yeah, I could throw Mike Trout in there.
Okay, and who's the 5th?
LeBron, Tiger. We got Tom Brady,
Trout.
Mike Trout, and then I'm throwing Bryce Harper in there. I got
and Bryce Harper. Okay. That's a doable list, although somewhat debatable. It's still a doable list. But you see what I'm saying? Wasn't easy to come up with, is it?
No, it's not. I had to
But we
reach
giving out
swimming.
10-year deals.
You're right.
We giving out 10-year deals. Take it easy, Josh. Thanks for the call. I mean, y'all got to be kidding me. Manny Machado? I'll run down the first baseline when I want to. No, win a championship. Yeah, it'd be nice, but, it's all right if I don't. 10 years? 10 years. And what you think he's going to do for the Padres? Other than pad his own numbers and lose. Just like Robinson Cano did, even though Seattle Mariners was a pretty good team. The fact is, Robinson Cano signs for $240 million. And now the damn man is back in New York, but with the Mets. And you can't make this stuff up. You got cats that's just showing up. Their job is to go to the batting cage in the morning, eat lunch, smoke tobacco, and play cards in the clubhouse, and then show up for 3 hours at night and maybe get 4 swings at a bat at the ball. And you can't make this up. They ain't got nothing to do with revenue generating, no box office appeal, but we giving out $300 million in 10 years. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Joe, you live with Stephen A. What's up?
Hey, Stephen A., how you doing, bro?
Go ahead, man. Go ahead, bro.
Hey, listen, man. Hey, listen, you know what, man? I agree with you 103%, man. Listen, first of all, the analytics, they don't dictate, they don't agree, because and plus it's hard box office to get these guys to get them 4 times a game, and when you go to see them, they might strike out 4 times, first of all.
Yeah.
And I have problem with the money.
Hold on, Joe. Or worse, they might get walked intentionally.
or might not
you know what I'm saying? They might get walked intentionally. And then, Joe, you can't make it. Joe, did I ever share that story with you? I went the one time Barry Bonds was coming to Yankee Stadium, man, and I waited. I got stuck in traffic. I traveled to the Bronx. I went there as a fan, not a journalist. I parked. I paid $50 for parking, man. I brought some sodas, a hot dog, the whole bit, and I sat there and watched them walk Barry Bonds. You know how disgusted I was?
You paid $10 for a hot dog. You see what I'm saying? And
you can't make this up.
You can't, man. In 10 years, like you said, you can't project. I played college baseball and basketball, okay, in Jersey City. Let me tell you something, man. You cannot, 10 years, the way athletes are today, guys throw 100 pitches and their arms are broken. Look, right now, to give that kind of money to me is ludicrous. I have a problem with the money also. I mean, when you compare that money they're making to any other profession, any other sport, when you talk about, like you said, they play cars and they chew tobacco and they walk around and come on, man. The ball might not be hit to him all day, technically speaking. So, actually, that kind of money, man, really, and I think the owners has got out of hand. How do the owners allow this? Analytics don't even back this up as far as saying these guys worth this kind of money.
Gotcha. Appreciate the call, man. Thank you so much. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. If you missed any of my opening thoughts, go check it out on demand in the Stephen A. Smith Podcast, brought to you by Capital One. Capital One is reimagining banking, offering accounts with no fees or minimums that can be opened in 5 minutes. Capital One. Hey, what's in your wallet? 888 say ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Back with more of your calls before my man Ryan Clark comes on to start off hour number 2. So stick around. You're listening live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Whether it's monthly challenge to meet your goals, a training program for your next race, or setting a new personal best, the Peloton bike will make you want to show up. Whether it's monthly challenge to meet your goals, a training program for your next race, or setting a new personal best, the Peloton bike will make you want to show up and keep climbing a live leaderboard year-round. Learn more about the Peloton bike at onepeloton.com or visit your local showroom.
The Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, and you can always get in touch with the show through the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed.
I love that beat. Absolutely love that beat. You never know. You know what never goes out of style? Surprising a friend or loved one will buy one, get one free multicolored roses for bouquets for $29.99 from 1-800-Flowers.com. To order, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. Ladies and gentlemen, I found it. I looked up in history because I was trying to remember the day. I found it. It was June the 9th, 2002. June the 9th, 2002. Barry Bonds comes to Yankee Stadium on a Sunday. Roger Clemens is pitching. And I go through everything. Had a honey with me. Went to the game. Paid for parking. Didn't know no media, no press box, no nothing. Looking forward to enjoying the game. Barry Bonds was walked 4 times. 3 times intentionally. Who does that? Baseball. That's who. Now, my man who calls himself my baseball Jedi, my man Brandon Tierney's listening. By the way, you can catch him on CBS. He does a great job. Can't thank him enough for what he did for my career when we were working together in New York City. And he was my sidekick because, ladies and gentlemen, I was covering the NBA for years. I wasn't paying no damn attention to the Yankees and baseball because I was too busy being a beat writer in Philadelphia. And that man helped me. So I always got mad love for my man Brandon Tierney. Even though my boy Jeff Brown in L.A. and my daddy, God rest his soul, were my baseball encyclopedias. But my man Brandon, mad love for him. Let me say this. Barry Bonds was walked 4 times. 3 times intentionally. You go through all of that stuff. He was box office. Could you imagine how disappointing it was? Now, Brandon and Jeff and others are absolutely right. Can't compare the Cano deal to Machado. That's not what I'm doing here. Because I know Cano was 31 at the time and Machado's 26. I'm simply saying I'm diametrically opposed to 10-year deals. Give them all the money they want inside of 6 years. No more than that. Manny Machado's got an out after 5. The Padres don't have an out. So if you're Manny Machado, you could stink up the joint and opt in for another 5 years. You can't make this up. I told y'all before, I'm going to say it again. Y'all will be hard-pressed to name 5 guys in the entire sports landscape who is definitively box office. And since that is the case, it don't need to be no 10-year deals. 5, 6 years max.
From coast to coast, the Stephen A. Smith Show starts right now.
Welcome to hour number 2 of the Stephen A. Smith Show right here with you over the airwaves of ESPN Radio, 250 plus markets across the United States of America. Check your AM, FM listing, plus ESPN Radio on Sirius XM Channel 80, plus ESPN Radio simulcast over the live national television airwaves of ESPN News. The Stephen A. Smith Show is being brought to you by Pennzoil Synthetics, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. So make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Also, ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance, comparing rates to help you save. Call or click today and find out how much Progressive could save you. It's my honor and privilege to have my next guest on the line, as always. NFL analyst extraordinaire for the family, does a great job on NFL Live, does a great job contributing to First Take. Obviously a Super Bowl champion with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Don't know why the hell he went to the Redskins for 1 year, but that's a story for another day. I'm talking about the one and only Ryan Clark is on the line with yours truly right now for the family. What's going on, man? How are you?
What's up, big bro, man? I miss you.
Same here, my brother. Same here. I couldn't wait to hear from you today because obviously Antonio Brown is the one making news. He goes on Instagram this morning, starts talking, does a 9-minute, IG video or whatever, talking about anybody that wants somebody who's the best receiver in the whole world, who's going to work hard and all of this other stuff. Come see him. Then he meets with Rooney, the owner for the Pittsburgh Steelers, your former boss, and they agree that it's time for a parting of the ways. Where do you stand with all of this? Now that the dust is settled, and we finally know definitively what's going to go down, that Antonio Brown will be wearing another uniform next season, not with the Pittsburgh Steelers. What kind of residue you peel from it all?
I thought that when it happened, I thought that they were going to have to make a move. Obviously, we couldn't see all of the moves that Antonio would make publicly after the first fallout with him missing the last game of the season against the Bengals. And so, now he's kind of backed the Pittsburgh Steelers into a corner. He's done a better job of promoting a trade than AD has in New Orleans. Like, this, to me, is something that you don't really expect out of this organization. This is something that you don't really expect a player in a Pittsburgh Steelers uniform to be able to do, which is force the Rooneys, force GM Kevin Colbert's hand and get himself a trade. But it seems like Antonio Brown has worked himself into creating his own narrative and now getting an opportunity to move on.
Is it a plus or is it a minus for him, considering the fact that the Steelers are doing this? Because the way I'm looking at it, Ryan, they have his contractual rights. He's obligated to be there with them for the next couple of years. We all know that he doesn't want to perform with non-guaranteed dollars because he's used up that portion of it all. We understand that this is just about his base salary, and he wants those things transferred into guaranteed dollars, the way the Steelers had done for him on at least 2 occasions in the past. So we understand, and it's very transparent what he's doing here. But still in all, he forced the Steelers to do something. And that's not usually what we see from the Steelers organization. What do you make of that?
No, 100%. And I think, to me, that was the most surprising part of the whole ordeal. I've listened to you, many a morning say, listen, there's a way that this can be worked out. I've heard you say when you have a guy who is this talented, you find a way to continue to play. It didn't seem like Antonio was interested in that. And I think you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers organization, an organization that hasn't had a lot of change at head coach, that has really stuck with guys that they've drafted and developed them as they did Antonio Brown. You don't expect that team to be basically bullied into doing what one player would desire them to do. But it seems like that's what Antonio's been able to do. But now you look on the outside, if you're a team who's thinking about acquiring Antonio Brown, is he worth what he'll bring to your locker room? Do you think you're one player away offensively from winning the Super Bowl, and can you handle his contractual obligations that he will bring to you, especially wanting guaranteed money? And so you're going to have to go through those things and know that you may be dealing with a guy who could be a detriment to your team off the field. So all of those things have to go into getting Antonio Brown. So I can't say that I believe this whole saga is over yet.
Ryan, you've been in the same locker room with him. You're a former teammate of his. He's been critical of you because of things you've said about him. Where do you stand in all of this? Is he worth the trouble? In your estimation, should teams clamor to get an Antonio Brown, considering how elite he is when he's on the field?
I think when you can add a player like that, if you can add him in the way that you're comfortable with, right? If you can bring him in and he understands who the quarterback is, how the offense is going to be run, if that's something he can settle himself on, if you understand how to deal with him, if there's a mutual respect that can be developed there between quarterback and Antonio Brown and head coach, I think you definitely do it. Listen, I think that's a huge reason, Stephen A., you kept saying if you can work out something to where he can stay in Pittsburgh, you do it because he is that talented of a guy. Even with that, you have to look at the position. You know, I heard you say yesterday you were speaking about Ben Roethlisberger and saying how Antonio Brown felt he should be valued as well, but Ben played the more important position. I think that goes into play here because even having Antonio Brown, with all of his excellence over the last 6 years, this team hasn't even played in a Super Bowl. And that's with a guy who's presumably a Hall of Fame quarterback and at one point having a top 2 running back in the league. And this team didn't even make it to the Super Bowl. So getting Antonio Brown doesn't guarantee you team success. And I think that will be also weighed in what teams are willing to give up for him and what type of maneuvering they're willing to do with a contract.
Ryan Clark, NFL analyst extraordinaire for ESPN, right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Ryan, when you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers and all that has transpired, obviously we can't absolve Antonio Brown from anything. We get that. But how do the Steelers look from top to bottom, organizationally as ownership, the GM Kevin Colbert, head coach Mike Tomlin? When you hear these names, what are the kind of thoughts that come to your mind as it pertains to the kind of job that they did?
I think this is an indictment on all of them. And, you know, I ride for Coach T, man, and, you know, like I say all the time, he's my friend. I want to see him succeed. I don't cheer for teams, but pretty much, you know, when it comes to the NFL, but I cheer for people. I'm loyal to certain humans, and I want Coach T to succeed. He hasn't done a good job in handling this situation. The organization, top to bottom, I don't believe did a great job of handling Le'Veon Bell and his contract situation. So this is an indictment on upstairs. This is an indictment on the executive. This is an indictment on the head coach. This is also an indictment on the quarterback, who's the leader of the team. And I've stayed away from talking about Ben a ton in this situation because it shouldn't be focused on him. This is Antonio Brown and him not showing up for his team. But we've all seen the lack of natural ability for Ben to lead. You know, we've seen him call out players. It was something he said himself he feels like he's earned the right to do. Well, obviously that didn't sit well with Antonio Brown, and it doesn't sit well with many or most of the players on the team, but they understand who Ben is, they understand what he's done, and what he means to the organizations and the organization.
But, Ryan, isn't it the problem? Couldn't it be the problem is that Ben Roethlisberger does know what he's worth to this Steelers franchise, and as a result, he's exercised a bit of latitude that may have been off-putting to some of the players in the organization? Because the way that I look at it is I think if Ben Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown had a better relationship, Ben Roethlisberger doesn't sit up there and say against Denver, we should have threw the ball to Juju Smith-Schuster every chance we got. He doesn't sit up there and call out a young receiver like James Washington the way that he did. Some of those things don't happen. The level of culpability that Ben Roethlisberger must harbor in all of this manifests itself how, Ryan?
Well, I think it manifested itself in Antonio Brown feeling like this isn't a place that he can play. Feeling like that one guy who I think Antonio feels like he's as much a part of the Steelers' success since he's been there as Ben Roethlisberger is. And I believe he wanted to be treated the same. I believe he didn't like being publicly called out. I believe he didn't like the fact that Juju Smith-Schuster was the name mentioned when Ben had an opportunity to pick a guy he'd want to throw the ball to. I think all of those things played a part in it. I think Juju Smith-Schuster becoming the team MVP. Actually, not even think. I know for a fact that was part of something that rubbed Antonio Brown the wrong way as well. And so you throw all these things into a guy who wants to be appreciated, a guy who feels like he's earned the right to be treated differently than other people in that locker room, and a wide receiver who wants his quarterback to understand what he means to his success as well. And I think when you throw all those things together, he had enough. And now Antonio Brown is sitting at a point, and we've seen him tweet this before, he thinks he's going to ball anywhere. When you're that great of a player, when you're that successful, you feel like you can put up numbers on any team. And so now he wants to go out and not only show the Pittsburgh Steelers that, but the entire NFL.
What landing spot is ideal for Antonio Brown, in your estimation?
You know, I think that's the hard thing for me. When you look at Antonio Brown and his success with Ben Roethlisberger and without, it shows that he is much less successful without an elite quarterback. So now you look around the places who have that quarterback who also have that need. Jimmy Garoppolo and the 49ers have been mentioned very often, but to me, the jury's still out on what type of passer Jimmy Garoppolo is, on what type of quarterback in totality Jimmy Garoppolo is. If Antonio Brown has a 2-reception game, a 3-reception game, is Jimmy Garoppolo a guy who can command or demand the respect from Antonio Brown?
What kind of future do you think Juju Smith-Schuster has without Antonio Brown on the opposite side of the field as a wideout?
I think he's a star, Stephen A. I truly do. I think Juju Smith-Schuster is a better version of Hines Ward, a more athletic version of who Hines Ward was. And I think Hines Ward is a guy who should be in consideration for the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, but let me ask you this. Let me explain what I'm asking here. As a football player that played on the defensive side of the ball, it's one thing where you have to have your eyes are vacillating back and forth, left and right, because you're looking on one side of the field and you see Antonio Brown, and the other side of the field, Juju Smith-Schuster. But as great as Juju Smith-Schuster is, now that Antonio Brown is going to be gone, it's just him. What do you see him doing under those conditions?
I think Juju Smith-Schuster is a legit number one. Obviously, I think things get tighter on him, harder on him once Antonio Brown leaves. Right now, you have the double teams. Now on teams who aren't doubling you, you draw the number one quarterback. So all those things have played a part into why Juju Smith-Schuster can succeed or has succeeded in the manner that he has. Mm-hmm. I expect him to continue to be a high-volume catch guy, a high-volume yards guy. I think, he needs to increase his touchdowns. I mean, this year he did go up, but when you have a guy like Antonio Brown who gets double digits, who gets 15, that's the type of production you're going to need from Juju Smith-Schuster. He becomes the number one. The jury's out to say that he can be as productive as Antonio Brown year in, year out as a number one receiver because nobody has, Stephen A. You look at the Julio Jones, the A.J. Greens, and these different guys, there hasn't been this level of consistency and dominance at this position in over the last 6 years. Antonio Brown is in the league of his own. So to say Juju Smith-Schuster can just step up and be that, I'm not willing to make that statement yet, but I do believe he's a true Pro Bowler and true number one receiver.
Ron Clark right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. So with that being said, as we look and we reflect on the Steelers before we change subjects, Le'Veon Bell, he sat out this year. Didn't want to get franchise tagged, obviously. He was holding his position, looking for a long-term deal, not a one-year tender. The Steelers are in a position where they could do that to him again. What do you think should happen as it pertains to Le'Veon Bell? What do you think will happen?
I think the Steelers are in a position where they can tag him again. You've heard things about the transition tag. Not sure you want to franchise him and put that type of number on him.
Right.
But I think right now the Steelers, you can't just lose everybody, Stephen A.
Yeah, I agree.
It can't be that Le'Veon Bell gets to leave and you get nothing back from it for him. Antonio Brown leaves, and I've heard people even talk about they may have to accept a second-day pick for Antonio Brown. That's just something you can't do. So right now, the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be in a position where the next decisions they make can call into question their business acumen and the way that they've handled these contract situations. And so for me, I think Le'Veon Bell is a guy who may get tagged. And also on the other side, I don't know if Antonio Brown becomes as easy or as profitable to move as everyone thinks he is.
So what are you trying to say, that you don't think the Steelers will be able to get a first-round pick for him?
I think it's going to be hard. And I know everybody's going to look to the Amari Cooper trade, but we're talking about a guy who's bigger, whose measurables are higher, who was younger. You're talking about a guy that, for everything we know about him, has never been a locker room issue, has never run himself off a team or run a team away from him. And so when you start thinking about all of those things and how they add into how you see Antonio Brown and what you're willing to give up for him, you have to be very comfortable with not only the player you're getting, but the person.
Let me transition to this subject, Ron, because I definitely trust and appreciate your perspective, and I want you to educate my listeners on it from this specific generic angle. In the news recently, we had Jay Glazer for Fox talking about Odell Beckham Jr., but, it wasn't news and it wasn't inside information. He was just predicting that Odell Beckham Jr. may get traded. When we hear about Odell Beckham Jr., he hasn't been in any real trouble or anything like that. Might have been a headache for the Giants from time to time, but his greatness cannot be denied. We know the upside is absolutely phenomenal, and yet here the Giants are supposedly entertaining that possibility. We know what's happening with Antonio Brown. We know how Amari Cooper's been moved, even though he wasn't a locker room issue, although his relationship with John Gruden could have been better. Talk to my listeners about the locker room in the National Football League. Is it overblown, and is it an excuse just for teams to lowball players, or is it really, really legit that a personality can be so cancerous to grown men with bills to pay who are licensed professionals that their mentality is this guy has to go because he really has the kind of power that could compromise our success? Is that real?
You know what's crazy? It's not real inside the locker room. So say Stephen A. and I have an issue, but every time we go on First Take, we just crush it, right? Our debates are good. We have a great chemistry. Now, we might not speak off air, but when we get on, we turn on, when the lights come on, we do our jobs and we do them well.
Right.
And there is no remnants of our off-camera relationship that shows up on camera. So that's how the locker room works most of the time. Listen, Big Ben and Antonio Brown, they've had these issues or these feelings about one another for years. This isn't new, right? But now it's become a problem because it's now become an organizational problem. Big Ben can't get Antonio Brown moved. Juju Smith-Schuster can't get him moved. Upsetting those guys, as long as you go out and do your job, that's not an issue. But when you mess with upstairs, right, when you mess with image, when you mess with the shield, when the emblem on the helmet is now being called into question, and you involve those people, the Mr. Rooney's, the Kevin Colberts, that's when there's a problem. When ownership, when management has an issue with the way that you conduct yourself in the building, it's a total different thing than when you have individual qualms with players. And that's where Antonio Brown is now. That's the position that Terrell Owens put the Philadelphia Eagles in years back after the Super Bowl. Once you make it very public that you and the organization aren't on the same lines, aren't on the same page, that's when you get moved, and that's where he has got.
Did Antonio Brown, whether it's Antonio Brown, the offensive line when they were going at Le'Veon Bell with some of his tweets, etc., I found myself feeling like Mike Tomlin was betrayed. I know he could have done a better job this year, and I know that it wasn't his most stellar moment. Please don't get me wrong, because I like you. That's a friend of mine. I love Mike Tomlin. But the bottom line, and he's won 65% of his games, been to 2 Super Bowls, never had a losing record. I don't want to hear any nonsense about how there needs to be a new coach in Pittsburgh. That, to me, is asinine. But I do think that neither of us are going to put our head in the sand and act like he did a great job this year, because he didn't.
No,
with that being said, but with that being said, I still find myself ticked off because I feel he was betrayed. I feel like he treated grown men and professionals like grown professionals, and he was betrayed because they didn't honor that. What do you say to that?
I sat down with Mike T later on in my career at an exit meeting, and he talked to me about the responsibility he feels to his players to not treat them as children, to allow them to be adults, but to allow them to be individuals, to allow them to think and move as grown folks should. Sometimes when you do that, you develop a bond and a chemistry and a friendship the way we did. We were close in age. He was a guy that I would go to when I had things that weren't going on, that wasn't on the field things. We developed that relationship because I respected the way he treated me as a man. This only works if that respect goes both ways. It only works if you feel a certain loyalty to that coach. Because Coach Tomlin treated me that way, because Coach Tomlin put me first as a person, not a player, I developed a certain level of respect that won't allow me to betray the loyalty that he's shown me. So I show it back. What's happened with the new generation, everything's become so individual, Stephen A., that they don't see it like that. They don't see it as you looked out for me, so now I owe you, I'll do the same. It's I'm entitled to this, I deserve this, I've earned this, and so now Mike T kind of finds himself in a position where those guys weren't as attached to doing things for him as he may have been for them.
And you know what that means, right, Ryan? That means that what these athletes unknowingly even may have done is they may breed more Bill Belichick clones. And what I mean by that is organizations led by individuals like him who are about control and about the betterment of the collective whole, even at the expense of the individuals. And if you don't buy in, you ain't going to last. That's what this kind of stuff breeds.
No, 100%. It also makes organizations and executives look for that type of coach. Look for someone who will not let the players run the organization, that it will be run by the letter of the law according to the head coach. And I think that's going to be the new wave you see along with the quarterback guy being drafted, is people wanting organizational control. That's what Tom Coughlin is trying to get in Jacksonville now. That's what Bill Belichick has always done. I'm talking to people in Detroit. Right. That's what Matt Patricia is trying to do. And I believe you're correct. Teams are going to want what's happening in Pittsburgh to happen in their building.
Real quickly, before I let you get on out of here, I need a quick answer to this. Should the Giants be considering trading Odell Beckham Jr.?
They should not. They should not. I believe you have the most dynamic running back, wide receiver pair that's in the NFL. And if you get the right guy under center and find protection, you have instant dynamic offense. You don't just move Odell Beckham.
Appreciate you as always, my man. Thanks so much, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, thank you, brother.
All right, the one and only Ryan Clark, NFL analyst extraordinaire for ESPN and ESPN, obviously right here with Stephen A. Smith on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Right, the one and only Ryan Clark, NFL analyst extraordinaire for ESPN and ESPN, obviously right here with Stephen A. Smith on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Going to transition to the UFC. There's a new monster in the UFC. He's a knockout artist. He just knocked out Cain Velasquez in 26 seconds. The brother is special. I'll tell you who he is because I'll be talking to him in just a few minutes. Stick around. Don't touch that dial. You're listening live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. By the way, Peloton is a game-changing indoor cycling bike that brings the energy of live studio classes right to your home anytime you want, winter or summer, rain or shine. Whether it's a monthly challenge to meet your goals, a training program for your next race, or setting a new personal best, Peloton bike will make you want to show up and keep climbing the live leaderboard year-round. On average, Peloton members are riding their bikes more every year and crushing their personal records along the way. Learn more about the Peloton bike at onepeloton.com or visit your local showroom. Back with more in a minute. It's Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News.
Learn what affects your credit scores and what you can do to improve them with Credit Karma.
Right now, the record is 11-3, and I got to be honest with you. I'm kind of shocked because I can't believe there's a loss on this man's record. This guy just knocked out the great Cain Velasquez in 26 seconds. He's considered arguably the hardest puncher in the world. He's the number 2 ranked heavyweight in the UFC. His name is Francis Ngannou. Francis, are you there, sir?
I'm here, Steven.
How are you, man? How's everything going?
Well, so far so good.
Hey, listen, I got
basically after what happened this weekend, it changed out to go good.
Well, listen, I got to give you a major props. I know Kane was talking about a leg injury, but he was classy. He gave you your props. You took him out inside of 26 seconds. It's something special to watch right now. Do you consider yourself the best in the world at the heavyweight division in the UFC right now?
Yes, and that's exactly what I'm about to show. Consider yourself as the best is something, and then show the world that you're the best is other things. So, and then the journey is not always great, but you still can make it. With all the obstacles and everything.
And I'm just looking at you right now, and I'm looking at some of these other heavyweights. You're at number 2. Miocic is number 1. I believe you lost to him by a decision. Obviously, Overeem and Volkov and Werdum and these guys are in this division. But I'm looking at you right now. What do you believe makes you so special? Anytime anybody looks at you, they see that massive physique of yours at 250 pounds, and they see, obviously, the punching power. What is it about you that makes you feel you're the best?
I think my story, my life, what I've been through, make me being the best because I know exactly why I'm here, and then, why I'm doing this. Make me my motivations make me being the best, and yes, obviously my power, and I also think it's something that I had it in my journey, I have it in my life, and all together plus my plus the knowledge of life, what I've been life taught me, all that is all the things would together build who I am today and who I'm about to become.
We're talking to Francis Ngannou, the number 2 ranked heavyweight in the UFC. Just finished knocking out Cain Velasquez in 26 seconds Saturday night. He's somebody that a lot of people are predicting will be the next heavyweight champion of the world in the UFC. He's right here with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. So who would you prefer on your hit list? I mean, is it Miocic? Is it Daniel Cormier, the heavyweight champion? I mean, who's out there that you want next? Who's next on your hit list?
So, who on my hit list is the title. If I would have choose for opponent, I think I would choose the rematch against Stipe. But since he's not the one who has a title anymore, I choose Daniel Cormier because he has the title shot and the title, and that is what I want. That's what belongs to me.
Now, listen, I'm going to read something to my audience about you because I want them to know this. A lot of people look at you, they've seen the knockouts, they talk about your unreal punching ability, but it's no longer a matter of just an opinion. It's been tested at the UFC's Performance Institute, and the results are in. You allegedly possess the world's hardest punch. I mean, they talked about, much like the documentary in Rocky IV with Ivan Drago, your punch force was measured at an astronomical 129,161 units, which is not just a record at the Performance Institute where the testing took place, but allegedly it's a new world's record. You're the hardest puncher in the world. If stuff like that is put out about you, aren't you scared no one will want to fight you? That everybody will run from you and avoid you?
Every fighter basically, in this level, has something special. Everything has something who allowed him to win. He has skills. It's not just about power. Skills beat power. And then if you have that power, you just have to add skills on top of it, and then have much as possible in your side to win the fight, because Cain Velasquez didn't have he doesn't have this power, but he's still the greatest fighter,
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have to be the biggest puncher in the world to be a greater fighter. So many things come together to make that happen. So
I got you.
It's the fact that it's good that you have power, but it's also good to be a good fighter, to have a skill, to be smart in your career. All that together is what I need.
Well, Francis Ngannou, I wish you the best of luck moving forward. You're 11-3, but as far as everybody else is concerned, you might as well be undefeated. You lost a couple of fights by decision. Nobody's worried. Everybody looks at you. They're expecting knockouts. You're arguably the most exciting fighter, or definitely one of the most exciting fighters in all of the UFC, and I'll be watching you in future fights to come. Good luck to you the rest of the way, all right, buddy?
Thank you very much, Steve. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Not a problem. Good luck to you in the future, and I will definitely be watching. Francis Ngannou, knockout artist. I saw him nearly take somebody's head off a few months ago, and obviously Cain Velasquez is no joke. He's big time and got taken out in 26 seconds, even though his leg clearly was bothered. The bottom line, say ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Let's go back to the phones. Let's go to Ray. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, Ray. What's up?
How's it going, Stephen A? Love the show, man.
Thank you, man. Go ahead.
We know that Colin Kaepernick was playing for Chip Kelly when this protest from him started. We know he was injured, and Chip Kelly, as a head coach, decided to clearly not start Colin Kaepernick and go in another direction. Stephen A, my question is this, man. If Colin Kaepernick was the starting quarterback, the man, like in the Beats commercial, the prima donna, basically the face of the franchise, do you believe, in your professional opinion, Stephen A., he still starts this protest kneeling on the field like he did during the national anthem? It's just a question, Stephen A. I know it's a sensitive one.
You know what, Ray? That's a damn good question. Because I don't know. You got to remember, Colin Kaepernick took a reduction in salary the year prior to that because he wanted the freedom to go into free agency because he knew that they were going to let him go. So what he wanted to do was leave a bit earlier so he could position himself to go on the free agent market and land somewhere else. Okay? And then obviously there wasn't a bunch of people calling. I've religiously brought up how he was 1-10 in his last 11 starts that one season. I think it was 2016. I also brought up the fact that he was 3-19 in his last 19 starts as an NFL quarterback, even though he wasn't the lone reason why. Because when you're getting coached by Chip Kelly on the NFL level, losses are going to come your way. But that doesn't negate the significance and the substance of your question, Ray, because what you're asking is, if Colin Kaepernick was that man, would he have made all of this noise? And you know why that's a legitimate question, Ray? We didn't hear all of this noise when he was starting for San Francisco and they were en route to the Super Bowl.
Stephen A, you're right about that. And I like Colin Kaepernick, respect what he stood for. I truly do. Cool brother. But I was just doing a little analysis on this, and I said, wow. You know, so just a question, that's all.
Listen, I appreciate the question. I don't know the answer, and I don't want to indict Colin Kaepernick, Ray, but I don't want to absolve him either. Listen, let's not act like Colin Kaepernick was completely innocent and just did it for the love of his people. The fact of the matter is he wasn't always doing it. He wasn't always doing it. Then he laid on the side in the cut and was quiet while everybody martyred him. Meanwhile, he was in pursuit of dollars. And while he was in pursuit of those dollars, ultimately when he reached the settlement, we don't know what the settlement entails. We don't know if he'll be back in the NFL. We don't know if he is back in the NFL if he did not agree and capitulate to not protesting any longer. We don't know what nuggets of info he's thrown in the direction, or what nuggets of capitulation he's thrown in the direction of NFL owners. All we know is that Colin Kaepernick got paid. And for those out there that were in support of Colin Kaepernick, right, I thought y'all were in support of him getting a job in the NFL.
That's right.
But now nobody's got anything to say because he got his money. And what I'm saying is that if you really want to show, if you really, really want to show that you stood for something, right? Like he said, excuse me, one of these NFL teams need to hire him. And let's see if Colin Kaepernick's going to protest then. That's why I said I want to know the details of the settlement agreement. Not the money. I don't care about his money. I don't care how much money he got. More money he got, the merrier. I'm proud of him. I'm happy for him. What I want to know is, what did he stipulate to? What did he capitulate to? Because if he capitulated to all of that and he got the money, particularly if it's money commiserate to what he would have gotten had he been a starting quarterback in the National Football League, then a legitimate argument could be made. That's what this was all about to begin with. And the rest of us got played. I'm just saying, Ray. I'm just saying.
You make a good point, Stephen.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot.
Something, his last at bat, World Series on the line. Check it out. Ground ball to the left side. He has a chance to be safe. He's running it out, and one step from first base, it's on camera, he's blowing a bubble. He's blowing a bubble. Usain Bolt does not blow a bubble at the tape. And that says everything about Manny Machado in one snapshot. Love you, man. Appreciate you.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Let's go to Dennis. You're live with Stephen A. Real quick, Dennis. What's up?
World Series on the line.
Dennis, turn down your radio. Go ahead. You're live on the air.
Hey, Stephen A.
Bye. Go ahead, Dennis. Real quick.
Hey, it's Stephen A. This is Dennis.
You got 30 seconds. You got 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Of, getting rid of Ben and keeping Antonio and Le'Veon, because we're going to need a quarterback here in a couple years.
I can't go with that because chances are you're going to need a receiver and a running back in a couple of years as well. So if you have to, listen, regardless of how Big Ben may have acted, regardless about the leadership he may have lacked, etc., there is no doubt that the quarterback position is more important than the wide receiver, the running back position. And the reality is since you got Juju Smith-Schuster and Jesse James and others, and Vance McDonald and others, with Connor still there, you keep Big Ben. Because you can afford, you don't want to lose Le'Veon and Antonio Brown, but you can afford it more than you can afford to lose Big Ben. That's the reality. Got to get on out of here, but